Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought, of course, that I would give my little fight prediction and my little fight breakdown of the fight that's going to be happening this weekend between that of Mr. Vergil Ortiz and Erickson Lubin. And this, of course, is a very, very interesting fight because I'm not going to claim that this is a quote unquote 50 fight, at least in my personal view, but it definitely is a fight to where if the favorite does not take the other seriously or if he does not have the correct game plan, then it definitely could go awry. And of course, the favorite in this fight is more than likely going to be Vergil Ortiz. It is going to be Vergil Ortiz because not only is he the undefeated fighter, but he's just looked at as the more talented fighter, which he pretty much is. And certain people overall may disagree with that. Of course, certain people are going with that of Erickson Lubin. And what I will personally state is this is definitely a fight that could go either way. Vergil Ortiz has had tough fights in the past. He had a tough fight against Aegis Kavalaskas. I believe he also had a very tough fight over that one bigger Ukrainian fighter, Sergei Boachuk, or whatever his name was. And Erickson Lubin, he is someone that is very talented, but he's not someone that is exceptionally talented. When I take a look at Vergil Ortiz, I do believe that he is exceptionally talented, but this is a very losable fight, and I think that Vergil Ortiz knows that. I think that this is going to be basically a precursor fight, to maybe fighting other quote unquote American black boxing styles that maybe he can face later on. Maybe like that of a Jerron Boots Ennis, maybe a Jamel Charlo, if he tries to face him. Although Charlo is someone that he can box a little bit, but he's not someone that I would really call majorly slick. But, it is what it is. But Erickson Lubin is someone overall that is very, very particularly dangerous. You always have to take him seriously, no matter who you are. He's got A plus level power. He's someone that does have a master of the boxing fundamentals, at least to a certain degree. He's just not exceptional in any particular category other than power, in my personal view. But he is someone that is relatively slick. He does know how to move out of the way unless you're able to get him up against the ropes. He's not someone that has exceptional upper body movement, but he does know how to use his feet. He knows how to use his length and his reach, and he also knows how to use his power. So this is going to be a very tricky fight if Vergil Ortiz does not establish the right game plan and does not approach this fight correctly. But that being stated, I'm going to give my personal fight prediction. Let's get into it and let's see what both have to say to each other.
Hello, welcome to Face to Face. I'm your host, Todd Grisham. Vergil Ortiz Jr. versus Erickson the Hammer Lubin, a showdown built for fireworks. As you know, Ortiz, one of the most feared fighters in the world today, 23 wins, 21 coming by way of knockout. He could become the face of 154 pounds. To my left, Erickson the Hammer Lubin, 27 wins, 19 coming by way of knockout, only 2 defeats. It's power versus power, danger in every exchange in a fight that could end in an instant. Erickson, I'll start with you. A lot of people do not want to fight this guy. He has been avoided, and yet you've been calling him out. What do you see in him that makes you think you can beat him?
I feel like he's a great fighter. I just feel like right now is my time. I feel like I faced the toughest guys in the division, and I'm just ready.
And there's no offense against you, dude. You have fought some of the tougher guys in the division, but you have basically crumbled every single time that you have fought them. There's no offense against Erickson Lubin, and I know that's, in many of my videos that I come across as harsh or maybe arrogant to some people, but it is what it is. I state the reality in many situations. Erickson Lubin overall is someone that once again is very talented, but there's just nothing that pops off the page about him. There's nothing I take a look at him and say, wow, that guy reminds me of a Terrence Crawford, or that guy reminds me, of a Shakur Stevenson or anything like that. He doesn't even really remind me of a Devin Haney. I mean, it just is what it is. Erickson Lubin is someone that, like I said, is very talented. He might be able to defeat some guys like, maybe he could have defeated the best version of a Tim Tszyu, maybe, and maybe some other guys. But do I think that he ever would have defeated, the best of the best at 154? No. And that pretty much overall was shown against Jamel Charlo and some other guys. And, I mean, it just is what it is. Can he win this fight? It's possible, but pretty much the only big fight that I've ever seen Erickson Lubin win was against Jesus Ramos. And to be quite honest with you, from what I had seen, from what I had watched of that fight, it pretty much looked like a complete robbery. But, I mean, we'll see what happens.
To prove myself, this is my third undefeated fighter in a row, and top 10 contender. And I'm just looking to solidify myself as the best 154 pounder.
When you heard his name being mentioned as a potential opponent, what did you think?
I thought that this was a great fight. You know, he's like we've been saying, he's been in there with the best, and you know, I just want to fight the best. That's really it. You know, I don't got anything against anybody. I'm just a competitive person.
His two toughest opponents, he was stopped in both those fights. Are you confident that you can knock him out?
Basically, Todd Grisham just said the same shit that I said. In both of his fights, he basically crumbled like a lawn chair. What do you have to say about that?
I don't go into a fight thinking I'm gonna knock anybody out. I just go in thinking
I'll personally state this. Going off of that and going off of what I've seen from both fighters, I do have to go with Vergil Ortiz because at the end of the day, Vergil Ortiz does not yet know how to lose. I think that he has better boxing ability. I think that he is the better defensive of the two fighters. And I think that he can mix his game up a little bit more than what an Erickson Lubin can. But Lubin is very dangerous, especially, against some of these Mexican fighters or some of those styles, because sometimes the Mexican fighters, they can rely a little bit too much on the high guard. And Vergil Ortiz does very much have a good defense, but he does at times rely a little bit too much on the high guard. And I don't think that he has quite the upper body movement of someone, say, like a Canelo Alvarez, where overall, it's quite as defensively responsible or harder to hit him than what a Canelo Alvarez had. But, like I said, we'll see. But he does, he still does have good upper body movement. He has relatively good feet from what I've seen, but he will have to move in and outside of the range. But basically, in order to win this fight, in my personal view, he is going to have to suffocate that of an Erickson Lubin. He can possibly beat him in the mid-range because Lubin will at times keep his hands down and he will allow certain punches to get in between shots, but he does need to be very careful because Lubin is going to be very lengthy. He's someone that is going to have about a 4-inch reach advantage over him, and he's someone that can legit punch. And he does know how to set up certain traps. So if Vergil Ortiz is not careful within this fight, then he can possibly get knocked out or he can possibly get knocked down. And he did get knocked down, I believe, against that of a Sergey Bohachuk, I believe, once or twice. And he did also get knocked down against Aegis Velasquez. So sometimes Vergil Ortiz, although, he can be very calculated and very disciplined, sometimes he does overextend his offense, especially that right hand. And sometimes he needs to be a little bit more patient. But I believe in this fight more than likely that he will be. I think that this might be a fight that he probably takes the most seriously, other than that of the Israel Madrimov fight. But this is, a quote-unquote trap fight, per se. But anyway.
Do my best and you listen to my corner. If it comes, it comes. But, if you think about the knockout, if it comes, it doesn't look good. It has to be organic. So I don't even think about that.
So what weaknesses do you see or what areas do you think you're better than Vergil?
I can't give you the game plan. I feel like he's a great fighter. I feel like
the weaknesses that I would be paying attention to if I was that of an Erickson Lubin is the overuse of the high guard at times, and at times when Vergil Ortiz has a little bit of a problem getting started. Of course he has a very good jab, but Erickson Lubin will out-lengthen him by, I believe, about 4 inches in terms of reach. So that would be something that I would use to my ability if I was Erickson Lubin. And on top of that, once again, you can do that stabbing jab to the body, which Erickson Lubin does quite well. And it might be able to offset that of a Vergil Ortiz if Ortiz has a problem with getting consistently on the inside range. But I do expect more than likely that Ortiz, that he will be able to mix it up enough, get that left hook in there. And if I'm Vergil Ortiz, I'm also looking for Erickson Lubin's hands to be down after a jab to overall to leave his lead hand down or to possibly leave a hand down so I can get that left hook in there. Because he'll throw that jab and then he'll keep his lead hand still down. He will not usually keep it up to his face, at least from what I have seen. At times he will, maybe up against the ropes, but within the mid-range, he knows how to use his length, but sometimes to his disadvantage.
Fight night, I'll be able to just show rather than just talk about it. I'd rather just prove myself and just, we have game plans drawn up. I'm with K. Karoma now. We have game plans drawn up, and I feel like on fight night, it'd be a great matchup.
A lot of people are wanting to see you fight Boots next. Everyone said you're ready, you signed the contract, you were good to go, and that he didn't. Is that the case, from what you understand?
I don't want to talk about anyone if it's not Lubin. I'm here for Lubin. I'm not fighting it.
There's been a lot of conversation about who has avoided who between that of Vergil Ortiz and Jerron Butsenis. Well, I think that both overall have offered the other side fights and both have turned it down. But of course, what the narrative is going to be by many people is that Jerron Butsenis, of course, was avoided by that of Vergil Ortiz. Well, Jerron Butsenis basically has not really looked good at the moment because he's basically turned down any big fight possible other than that of the Terrence Bud Crawford fight. And Jerron Butsenis is going to have to start taking bigger fights. I mean, I know that he recently fought Imantas Stanionis or whatever, but basically last year or earlier this year, I believe, he claimed that he wanted to be undisputed at the welterweight division. You know, I believe that he gained 2 of the 4 titles there. Then overall, once again, Vergil Ortiz, you know, or maybe even before then, they offered him a fight allegedly. And Jerron Butsenis apparently had turned it down because he wanted to be undisputed at the welterweight division. And at first, I didn't really have a problem with it. And you can do whatever you want to with your career. Of course, it's not my career. But the point is that it's not a very good look for you to turn that big fight down and allegedly state that Vergil Ortiz is avoiding you or have your fan base state that. And then, you know, just a couple of, you know, like a fight later, you end up, you know, getting rid of your titles and moving up to 154 anyway. So, I mean, it's just not a good look.
Anyone else that's not in.
Well, their promoters are going out saying, hey, once he beats Lubin.
And the reason why I thought it was all right at first was because, okay, Jerron Butsenis always had stated that. He always had that goal in mind. So, you know, no one really has a right to criticize him in my view because that was the goal that he always had. But then a fight later, you know, you just decide to give up your titles anyway and fight somebody that's really unknown at that weight class. At least from what I know, I didn't really watch the fight, so I don't remember the opponent. But, I mean, come on.
That's the fight that's next. Do you feel like everyone's overlooking you in this battle?
Yeah, I've said it before. You know, with the whole promotion, with the poster and stuff like that, and you know, sometimes I read comments online. I see how people are overlooking me, but that's just fuel to my.
Well, this is just my personal view, and I know that a lot of people will find it very, very harsh. Once again, this is a fight overall that could be a trap fight if Vergil Ortiz does not take it seriously, but I think that he will. I think that he knows that Erickson Lubin is a very tough style. I don't think that he believes that Lubin is truly a A-plus level fighter, but he knows that if he doesn't take this seriously, he could lose. And that's really kind of the worst type of situation to be in. Someone that's very dangerous, but someone overall that overall is not really good enough to usually beat A-grade level fighters. That's the worst type of fighter to be. Because everyone takes you seriously, but you're not really good enough to take it up to another gear or another level to usually beat those A-grade level fighters. But anyway.
Fire. You know, I've been one of the top dudes.
And do I believe that Erickson Lubin is being quote-unquote overlooked? Not really, because I see a lot of people giving Erickson Lubin a very good chance. At the end of the day, Erickson Lubin can get mad at it all he wants to, but at the end of the day, whether he just crumbles under pressure or whether he just does not have enough skill, I think that it's a little bit more of the latter. At the end of the day, Erickson Lubin is someone that pretty much in every big fight, he has not beat them. He got knocked down in the first round against Jamel Charlo. He really should have lost against Jesus Ramos. And he also, I believe, ended up getting completely battered and beaten up by Sebastian Fondura. So, I mean, it is what it is. Now, of course, I do believe that he beat Jason Rosario, but Jason Rosario is one of the more one-dimensional fighters that I've ever personally seen in my life. But anyway.
It's the amateurs. So, you know, with people overlooking me, it's like bringing back that fire in me.
Vergil Erickson said recently that you've been protected a little bit and carefully orchestrated throughout your career. How do you answer that? How do you respond to that?
Maybe to his point of view, you fought for a world title against Charlo your 3rd year. I didn't get that opportunity.
Many people always say this. You know, there's always guys overall who feel that they're being overlooked, and they always usually state this stuff that their career has been quote-unquote orchestrated. And to a degree, of course, Vergil Ortiz's career has been orchestrated. He's a guy that has been somewhat, you know, I don't want to say dictated, but directed by that of Golden Boy and all this sort of stuff. They've seen high-level potential, and of course, you know, he was a free agent, and they said, okay, we believe that, you know, you can be our next star. So people always love to use this narrative of certain guys being quote-unquote industry plants and all sort of stuff. Well, just because someone overall is highly promoted and they see a high level of talent, so they want to put them in more of the mainstream, doesn't always mean that they're a quote-unquote industry plant. Unless you just mean that that person's an industry plant by them wanting to be, you know, by them putting them in more popular areas. But an industry plant to me is someone that, you know, is given opportunities because of certain things other than just popularity or certain things like that. Because you want to use them for other reasons. And I mean, many athletes are used for other reasons anyway, but the point overall is that Vergil Ortiz is someone that has a great amount of star power, and he's someone that so far has won his fights. So, I mean, excuse me, Erickson Lubin can claim that, overall that he's got these opportunities, but Vergil Ortiz came back with a very good retort. He said that you got a very, early on championship title for really defeating a whole bunch of bums, pretty much to my recollection, fighting Jermell Charlo, and you got knocked down in the first round, dude. So no offense against you, but I don't want to hear any of that shit.
To get that opportunity, I don't think I gotta disagree. I just didn't get it. I was trying to fight Hooker. I was trying to fight whatever 140 pounders there were. I didn't get to fight Crawford or Spence. They were trying to fight each other. I just didn't get those opportunities, man. I mean, you can think what you want, but that's really all it came down to. Lack of opportunity.
We've seen a lot of fights recently that were they already had an opponent lined up, like Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia.
Yeah.
They end up losing. Do you feel like in the back of his mind that he's already looked past you and that's an opportunity for you to ruin plans?
Nah.
No?
I don't think Vergil Ortiz has looked past Erickson Lubin at all. He would be absolutely stupid to do so. Erickson Lubin is the opponent that you really cannot absolutely look past because he's good enough to beat you if you implement the wrong game plan or if you underestimate him. But if you take him seriously, more than likely, it's still going to be a tough fight, but you're more than likely going to clearly beat him. But we'll see.
I could see it in his eyes. I know he's not overlooking me. I know
Agreed.
he's he knows where I come from. He knows where I come from, the type of fighter I am. He's in the amateurs. He's a Mexican fighter, but he's done a lot of work in the amateurs in the U.S. So I know he's heard of me probably from the past and the amateurs and stuff like that. So he's not overlooking me. I'm not overlooking him. I see the guys that he's fought. He stopped those guys. He made easy work out of those dudes. And I was actually impressed with the Madrimov one because I had him losing that fight. Yeah, I had him losing that fight, but he went in there.
That was one of the fight predictions overall that I got right as of recently. Now, of course, there has been fight predictions that have surprised me a little bit more as of recently, such as the Canelo versus Crawford one, because although I knew that that was a fight that could go either way after taking a look at Canelo's most recent performance, I thought that the combined skill set and size and power would be too much, but Crawford, of course, proved me and many other people wrong. And, of course, the other fight that I must say that probably even surprised me a little bit more than that was the Dmitry Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev rematch. Because I really did not think that Bivol was going to be able to make the proper adjustments in order to beat that of an Artur Beterbiev. Because I didn't think that he was going to be able to make those simple adjustments. I thought that he was going to cower a little bit too much, just like he did in the first fight. And I thought that Beterbiev eventually was going to be able to break him down, at least, kind of into submission. But he was able to beat him. So that was something that surprised me a little bit more, And, of course, there's some other ones as well. But anyways, that being said, but I knew that Vergil Ortiz was going to be able to defeat Israel Madrimov because Madrimov is someone that's very good, but he's never someone that's going to be A+. He had that one very good performance over Terrence Bud Crawford where had he really pulled the trigger, he probably could have even won that fight. But he's someone that, when you take a look at his style, he has, he's someone that's very difficult, but he has a very difficult, he has a very big problem in not pulling the trigger. He loves to feint 350 times, in a single fight. He loves to move around, all this sort of stuff, have quick feet, but none of that shit matters if you don't have volume in a fight, dude. And Vergil Ortiz was someone that was probably more defensively responsible than him. He throws more than him, and I think that he has more to his game. And that's exactly what happened.
And he dominated. He dominated, in my opinion, better than Crawford did.
Agreed. I thought that Vergil Ortiz had the better performance over in Israel Madrimov, than that of a Terrence Bud Crawford. And let me just state, no, that doesn't mean that Vergil Ortiz is the better fighter compared to that of a Terrence Bud Crawford. Before I get these Terrence Bud Crawford fanboys that get in their feelings and their panties overall and say, you always disrespecting Bud. All this sort of stupid shit. Anyway.
Vergil, you said nobody really wants to fight you, but Erickson stepped up to the plate and wanted you so bad. Do you respect him for doing that, or you feel like this is a fatal mistake? He should not have wanted this fight the way he wants it.
Man, I respect it. I respect anyone that gets into that ring, especially right now. No one's. It's been really hard to get fights. I haven't fought since February, and we've been trying. I'm very glad that we got one, especially someone calling me out. So it's I don't see it as a lack of disrespect. If anything, I see it as hey, I think you're a good fighter. Let's get it on. That's why I see it.
All right, let's wrap it.
I think that Erickson Lubin realizes that if he ends up winning this fight, that he is going to be put on another level and that he will get another opportunity to possibly prove himself. He realizes that Vergil Ortiz is very, very talented. I think that Lubin, of course, believes that he can beat him, but he knows overall that Vergil Ortiz, that he is, the expected A-grade level fighter here. So Lubin, in order to win this fight, he's going to have to pull something out of his bag that I had not seen from him in past performances. Now, maybe if I see something, a little bit different here, of course, apparently they've shaken things up a little bit, but I've just not seen enough changes in order for me to favor Lubin in this fight, but we'll see.
What's your message to Vergil as he heads back to camp to prepare to face?
Train hard, brother. Train hard. Train really hard. It's going to be a great night of boxing.
All right, there you have it. November 8th, live on DAZN from right here in Texas. It's Erickson the Hammer Lubin versus Vergil Ortiz Jr.
But anyways, that pretty much is about it for that video. I thought that was very particularly interesting. But who am I favoring within this fight? I believe that Vergil Ortiz deserves to be the favorite. I just think that he's the all-around more skilled boxer. I think that he can fight more in a multitude of ways. I think that if he stays within the mid-range too long with Lubin, then I think Lubin can take advantage with his length and his power and his stabbing jab. But I think that if Ortiz is smart, and I believe that he is the smarter of the two fighters, I do believe that Vergil Ortiz will work on Erickson Lubin, and I do think overall that he will pressure him. I'm not quite sure if he'll do it immediately. Sometimes Vergil Ortiz does take a little bit, in order to kind of get started, but he is someone that I do think eventually he will make the proper adjustments. So we'll see what ends up happening here. But if Vergil Ortiz was smart enough in this fight, and I do believe that more than likely he is, I do think that more than likely he will pressure Erickson Lubin. And I think we're going to see a Vergil Ortiz that is going to start out consistent. Someone overall that is starting off with that double jab, going to try to also get his stabbing jab to the body, as well as an overhand right. And I think we're going to see a tighter defense from that of a Vergil Ortiz, but also one that at times will try to mix it up a little bit with Lubin, because I think he's going to see some of the same openings that I also seen within some of Lubin's fights. But we'll see overall what ends up happening here. Anyways, that pretty much is about it for this fight prediction. I do predict Vergil Ortiz to probably either get the stoppage within the latter round, somewhere within, round 9 to 10, or win by that of unanimous decision. But if Erickson Lubin ended up winning this fight, I wouldn't be shell-shocked either, because this is a very difficult fight. This is something that could end up awry if Vergil Ortiz does not play it properly, and if he does not make the proper adjustments. But I believe that more than likely he will. But he needs to be very careful to not just stay in the high guard too much in the mid-range. Move around, use your feet to move in and outside of the range. And on top of that, just keep Erickson Lubin up against the ropes. He's not someone that fights very well when his back is up against the ropes. He'll try a little bit, but he's not someone that is very skilled in that dimension. He's someone that pretty much prefers to keep you within the mid to long range, and if you actually get within his grill, you can hurt him. You can overall, once again, get him to crumble and break down, and he will start to show a lot of his deficiencies within the style. But we'll see. But anyways, that pretty much is about it for today. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see where this goes, because this is a fight that could go either way. And Vergil Ortiz is someone that, although he has decent feet, he's not someone that is the quickest of foot that I've ever seen. So we'll see what ends up happening here. But a lot of upper body movement needs to be used. Be consistent, throw a lot of volume within this fight, and keep Erickson Lubin up against the ropes. That's where you mainly want him. So he's going to have to cut off the ring very well as well, but you do not want to keep this fight in the mid-range the whole time, just to my personal perspective. But we'll see. But anyways, that pretty much is about it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.